Almost agreement time, boys and girls. Oh, it's a Tuesday. Like we said, we're going to switch the schedule up a little bit on you guys. But this way, hopefully, we can have more of everybody in the room more often than not. So, anyway, it's Almost Agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, you can check out my voter guide 22. Later on this week, I have Henson Sale. He's like a super realtor guy. We're going to talk about the housing market and stuff in Knoxville. Then next week, I got Testerman. I scheduled Constance for the governor's race, as well as Mr. Kaz, who I've been giving shit to on Facebook for the last couple of weeks. So that'll be an interesting one. So stay tuned for that one. But we're going to keep doing shows. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend. And so, yeah. You know, your ears are not deceiving you. You got 2 episodes in 3 days, so get ready. We're going to do some more stuff. Hi, fellas. What's going on?
Evening.
What's up, fellas?
What's up?
So, your ears aren't deceiving you, listeners. This is Max actually in the room. He's not on the phone for the first time in a hot minute. Or you get to hear him drink.
Maybe a month and a half. Hasn't been that long.
It's been a while since you've been here.
Yeah, maybe a month and a half, probably, since I've been in the building.
In the room. I don't know. What's new? What's happening? It's going to be... I might have... I don't know. I'm trying to think of how many crazy things that we had. It's a short window between episode recordings to get crazy on. I mean, we have the biggest, craziest thing in the last couple of years that we can still talk about. I don't really want to talk about it anymore, but I will do it if you guys want to. I don't care.
Yeah, the mass shooting.
Yeah, I'll go down the rabbit hole again. Because I mean, because we were chatting through we were chatting in the text group, our text group about it, and you agreed with me. It's like, I think it's a little bit, and I understand it as far as there's some intention to it to make it more significant, but the term mass is weird. It's weird to me. It's weird to you.
Yeah. Well, it's not weird. I don't think it's weird to anybody. It's weird how the qualifications of what a mass shooting is. I think that's the weird part.
Right, because when you hear the phrase mass shooting, what you think of is way more than what the actual definition is. I think that's the thing that we were discussing, is that four victims, dead or not, and one of them can be the shooter. So it could be, I shoot you two, and I shoot a cop, and the cop shoots and kills me. That's 4.
Well,
the cop included one's not count.
What if a gunman has, guys in the middle of the street and 3 cops come out and he shoots at the cop and wounds 3 of the cops and then they shoot him dead? Are they going to go say mass shooting?
Right.
Yeah, because I think it's all involved in that one incident.
Yeah, but nobody would think that, the cops that are approaching a gunman and he injures 3 of the cops and then gets killed. No one would be like, that's mass shooting. Well,
but cops don't go in to get shot at anyway, so because that's the real conversation to be had. Now, I've heard conflicting stuff that it wasn't they weren't all just sitting around the whole damn time kind of thing, but I don't know.
Well, there was the thing from the police chief. I don't know if that came out before or after you guys did the show on Saturday, where the police chief said we made a lot of mistakes. And we can say now that we should have went in sooner.
The local, or it was like the head of the Texas Department of Safety, whatever, basically said that the commander on the scene, who was kind of like the county sheriff / and I'm not sure what his actual title was.
It's confusing. I don't know, because that's part. I mean, that's part of it. And we still, like, you sent me that timeline after the show a couple days ago, and I was reading through that, but like I needed it in like a graphic, like. Because there was definitely like one of the ones that we went back and forth on was whether or not there was any shooting before he entered the school, and yes, there was.
He had shot at a couple people,
right?
I don't think anyone had fired at him.
But the cops had gotten there before he got inside.
No, he was already inside.
That time when you sent me, I'm pretty sure it said that police responding to the funeral home people that got shot at had arrived, and the kid went all the way around the building before he went into the one open door.
Yeah, I remember that there was 2 cops that had drove by, and apparently he was like hunched down behind either his truck or another vehicle. But apparently just like drove right by him but didn't see him. I think before he had gone in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see the timeline. So the cops saw him going to the school
Yeah.
and did not follow him inside. That's a little
Well, I
strange.
mean, but the timeline that Sam sent me said that they went in right after him, and that they were pinned outside the door of whichever classroom he pinned himself into. And like at least the way that the timeline read that Sam shared with me is that there was a couple inside the whole time, but they were just kind of leaned up against the wall, kind of hiding because he was behind the door, kind of deal.
Oh, I gotcha. I didn't go too deep in it. I did see the someone posted. This was obviously when Trump was president, about him discussing with the NRA. He's like, "How is it okay for we say that 18-year-old is not allowed to buy a pistol, 18, 19, or 20, but he can buy he didn't say assault rifles, but he said these kind of rifles
Right.
that are used in these situations. How is this not 21?" And I was like, I've never heard anybody say anything about that.
Trump sounded reasonable. Is that what you're saying? Like Trump
Yeah.
said something like logical and reasonable.
He was like, an NRA is
That's
not
why
going to...
that's why you haven't heard about it. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
like nobody wants to give him any points or anything ever.
He was like, the NRA is not going to like this, but it probably should be 21. I thought that was interesting.
I mean, I'm good with that as long as everything else is. Everything else is. I don't like that. We can go into that rabbit hole if you want. I don't like this wandering age, this wandering age of consent that we have. It doesn't. Certain things for certain reasons, a 15-year-old can make a decision on.
Well, yeah. Well, the reason why that's there is for hunting. The idea is why a juvenile, 18, 19, and 20-year-old cannot purchase a handgun, but they can purchase a rifle, is because rifles, you can get a hunting license at 18. So if you get a hunting license at 18, you got to be able to purchase a gun at 18. So that's why it's rifles, and, ARs fall in the category of hunting weapons. But
I mean, we did go through that at least in the TWRA handbook in depth.
yeah, you can shoot, you can hunt with an AR. I mean, it's completely legal hunting equipment.
It's just not effective. It was our discussion because it had to be full metal jacket, right? That's all I remember our discussion about it. It had to be a full metal jacket, which means you're going to just poke holes in the deer instead of actually put it down.
No, you can't use a full metal
No,
jacket.
you can't use a full metal jacket.
Cannot use a full metal jacket for hunting.
I don't remember. I don't know. I just remember we went through that discussion and looked it up and found it and whatever.
Yeah. Also, you can't be traveling forward in a
Right.
boat and hunt.
You can be traveling backwards. It's in any vehicle is the backwards part.
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, the only thing that makes sense to me on that one is that it'd be like Bubba in the back of the pickup truck where they mount a turret, and he's on the back. He's standing up in the back of the truck, just as they're driving down the country road there. And I could agree that that's probably a problem.
Yeah.
You should be allowed to have it, but firing at things while you're driving on the road, I could see that as being a legal issue.
Well, you can't shoot from road.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess if I'm on the back of the ATV and you're driving, I can't fire moving forward. That's the detail.
So on private land, you can, because private lands don't have roads. They might have.
That's right, but it's
pathways
the
and stuff
forward moving
like that.
vehicle thing. I thought.
No, even on private, you can still. I think on private land you can.
But so if there's a,
maybe not moving. I don't
I
know.
don't
That's this weird thing.
that's not really on the agenda of things to do.
Yeah, that's.
Go get that golf cart you got running again. And
Yeah.
just go barreling through the woods in the golf cart, blasting them.
That's funny. I
So
would
how-
like to hunt at 9:15 at night.
So how do 16-year-olds go hunting? They just have to be with
They have to be with
an adult.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I just again, like I said, I don't think I think I don't understand the wandering age of consent. I don't understand what makes a 19-year-old capable of making a decision on certain things, but not others. Like why? Like how does that? That just doesn't make sense to me that we have a wandering age of consent.
Well, there's a
I
whole.
understand what you were meaning on the hunting thing specifically. It's
Yeah.
like, well, we say you can hunt at 18 and you're legally an adult at 18 and that kind of thing. So if you're legally able to hunt, you need to be able to buy a gun to go hunt with. So we're going to let you at 18 buy, which otherwise we wouldn't let you till 21. But then just make the legal age of adult in the United States 21, and everything happens at 21.
Yeah, so like there's a Netflix special that my wife started watching, and it had to do with people getting convicted as minors. Like 15-year-old kills people, and then they charge him as an adult. and I guess the Supreme Court ruled that you cannot give somebody under the age of 18 that is charged as an adult a life sentence. So that you have these people that
they're tried as adult, but they're not eligible for adult punishments.
Yeah, so they were charged, like, you know, they're a 15-year-old kid that there was a couple, and one of them I was like, no, he shouldn't get out. I agree with that. And then like the next episode, I was like, no, dude, that guy should get out. But like one was the guy basically assassinated his neighborhood friend. He made friends with his family, and the family kind of took him in, and like, because he was like, his parents were crackheads or whatever. He was living with his sister, so this family kind of adopted him. And then he ended up shooting the other 15-year-old girl in the back of the head when she was on Facebook or something like that. And then he was charged, and he got 40 years or something, like 40 years to life. And then the Supreme Court said you cannot make a minor a life sentence, so now they're resentencing. They have to go through a resentencing thing. And I was like, dude, that kid he shouldn't be out. Like, sorry, I don't know if there's rehabilitation for that. But then the other one, which was a total racist issue, it was one black kid and 3 white kids that stopped this guy, tried to get a ride home from him. One of the white, and he was 15, and the other kid was 15, and the other 2 kids were 13. And the 15-year-old white kid shot and killed the driver. And all 4 of them were arrested and charged. Well, the 13-year-olds, they couldn't charge as adults, so they got like 5 years, juvenile, whatever. The kid that actually shot the person plea bargained for 20 years. The black kid that didn't not shoot the gun or hold the gun or have a gun got charged with 30 years to life. And it was like, the guy that actually committed the crime was out of jail because he plea bargained.
He pled out, yeah.
He pled out, and they didn't offer the black kid the plea bargain. So the 3 white kids got out, and the only one was left was the black kid. And I was like, yeah, that dude should not be in jail for life just because he was with somebody that should. But it's interesting situation that it's like, are they adults? Are they not adults? That's a whole another thing. Is a 17-year-old in 362 days or whatever commits a crime. If he did it 2 days later, he would have a different punishment.
Right.
How much big difference does that make?
Right. But I mean, but again, even in the more standard version of it, where it's a 15 or 16-year-old and they're a couple years away, you know, it's just like, well, we feel like this one's severe enough that we need to change your age demographic bracket and call you an adult on this one. It's like, well, then why do we have a juvenile court system? If we could just, I mean, I'm sure there's some written standard on what you have to prove or what kind of crime it has to be for them to be able to add it as an adult charge instead of a juvenile charge or some shit like that. But it's like, I don't know. What's the point of you're 18 and an adult? You're an adult, you're 18. That means you're supposed to be capable of making decisions and responsible for the decisions that you make. Well, if that's the rule, when you turn 18, that's what happens. Then when you're 15, that's not the rule. That's just not how it works.
Well, I mean, like the whole thing with being a 15-year-old and basically assassinating somebody that was like their sister, basically. Right. And they were saying, well, he didn't have the 15. He doesn't have the mental capacity to make those decisions. And I was like, I'm sorry, a 15-year-old knows that
murdering people is not okay.
Shooting somebody in the back of the head is not okay. It's not like stealing candy out of a candy jar. And, you know, like I was like, I don't know how you say that he doesn't have the mental capacity to understand that.
Mean, right, because if that's the standard we're going to use, at what age do we think it is reasonable to assume that a person understands that it's not okay to kill people? Like, what age does that officially go into the books? Like 7, maybe 8? I would think. I don't know. But I'd say somewhere in the kindergarten, first grade realm, when they're allowed to be around other people in public.
Yeah, you can't teach kids that these days. No, don't even bring that up in school.
You're probably right.
You talk about that at home.
I'm just saying, like, you know, like it's just such a wandering target. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, just pick a number and let's just stick to it. Because I understand the premise. Let's make it so that they're
I think that's why
well out of high school.
Put rules on it, but they give some kind of leeway depending on circumstances to have it be an equal trial.
Depending on circumstances.
Yeah.
Whether you have a good lawyer or not, or
You're white or black, or you're...
I mean, the facts of the case. You don't always want to have to look at a case as just black and white. Like, person A shot person B. They were 14 and a half years old. They should get this.
Okay. I don't know what...
I mean, the point of legal system is to look at each case individually.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you
And
can't just have a blanket.
But it's like your favorite word is precedents, and to go look back at precedents, it's like, well, you could probably go back and find a dozen different cases that have a dozen different charging styles or whatever it is for a similar style case, but it's like, well, this DA wanted to charge an adult, this one didn't.
Right. Precedents can come in on certain aspects of a case, whether, a certain piece of evidence brought in this way. That's when you can bring in precedents.
I think you still have to bring in precedents.
You can't look at a whole case as a precedent.
I want to charge this 14-year-old as an adult. I think one of your things you would do as the DA in that case would be to bring in precedents of other cases where 14-and-a-half-year-olds gotten tried as adults. I think that would be part of that specific...
That you could in the argument of whether or not he should or shouldn't be charged as an adult.
So then at what... Okay.
Well, that's why there's a lot of judges that don't like mandatory sentences for certain crimes. There's been things with the guy in Colorado that killed the people and the semi that his brakes went out and killed those people or whatever.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And the judge even said a sentence. He's like, I don't feel that the punishment fits the crime here, but according to Colorado law, it's a life sentence. Right. And that's kind of shitty that the judge, the person sentencing him, does not agree with it, but he doesn't have a choice. So I think there should be some leeway in sentencing for certain situations,
Right. But again, I think it's everybody wants it to be a consistent standard and says, well, this person got in an accident, killed somebody, and this is what their punishment was. This other person got in an accident, killed somebody. It should be a similar punishment.
Yeah.
I thought the judge does have decision of it.
Unless it's specific. Like, I mean, there are specific mandatory sentences. Like, if you...
where it's something like 30 to life, I think the judge can say 30 years versus life.
Right, but a specific crimes, or like when you get into states that have 3-strike law stuff, there's no option other than, or the new minimum that the state allows on said crime is X. And so it could be like in this case, I don't know, whatever. It's like somebody gets like 3 possession charges, it becomes a felony, but it's a 3-strike rule. And so it's like, well, it's 3 strikes, so now you get 15 years, the minimum for possession, and your third strike on is 15 years. And it's like, some dude that's stealing Zoloft's or something for his depression.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and there's got to be leeway. If you have a guy that he's gotten 6 DUIs and he blows like 0.2 after killing some family in a minivan, that's different than the guy that is 0.08, never been in trouble with the law. Somebody runs a red light, he smashes into them, but if you have alcohol in your system, you are charged with a crime.
Right.
And so those people die, and then now all of a sudden you're getting charged the same thing as the guy that had the 5 DUIs and stuff. And it's like, well, there's a difference between the two. They both killed somebody, but...
And there's some instances where
this one should have known better at this point,
where the jury weighs in on actual sentencing recommendations.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of
weird. If we had a lawyer... criminal lawyer, our lawyer Jamie wouldn't be any good at this one.
No, he would not be good.
Yeah, but
he's AC's buddy is a lawyer. I was talking about something, and he said, "Sometimes you need a criminal lawyer, and sometimes you need a criminal that's a lawyer." I was like, "That's funny."
Well, he was telling us the story about he got a ticket down somewhere between here and Atlanta, and just for the experiment of it, they went down. Like he took his lawyer buddy down, and they went and to argue against it or whatever, just to watch it happen. It's a good one. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen. It's a fun story.
My sister-in-law, this is a messed up situation. She was in Colorado, and she got pulled over for like speeding or something. The cop said he smelled marijuana. And so searched their bag, and they found an 1/8 of marijuana on her. And
what year was this?
So this is the thing. It was after Colorado legalized marijuana.
But before it took effect.
And so I'm like, what a dick. The cop knows that it's been voted to be legal, and you're still prosecuting him. And the funny thing is, she had some, like, a jar of pills or whatever, and they were going to... California, and the couple's like, "What's with these pills?" And she's like, "Oh, they're just my prescriptions, and I just, because we're going on this trip, I didn't want to bring the whole prescription bottles, so I just put a few pills in it." And he was like, "Okay, I won't charge you with that." And she was like, "That was actually not like
that was the stuff that I should have got in trouble for, that kind of
but
stuff."
she said when she went to court, she said the judge was like, I'm because then when she went to court, it was after it was legalized, and the judge was like, "Why are we charging somebody with possession of marijuana when it's legal here in Colorado?"
Well, I know in California,
he was really confused on the case. So it ended up getting like expunged or something, supposed
with
to
probation
be
or something.
Yeah.
Diversion, yeah.
Which she ran out of. She fled the state anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, we were just talking about that because she was because it was a felony or something that was expunged, and when she was applying for a new teaching license, they asked, "Have you ever been convicted of a felony?" And she was like, "No," because she called her lawyer, and he's like, "No, answer no, because it's supposed to be expunged, like shouldn't exist."
But it's California or Colorado or one of the legal states that still has tens of thousands of people in jail for possession and distribution and dealing and whatnot.
Well, how about the stuff you sent us and the bills were? I'm confused about one. Maybe you can clarify.
No, I can't yet. We were talking about this pre-show. Go ahead. All right. So for anybody listening, let me do the backstory that I want to do on it real quick, because I was driving downtown today. I was on this side of town. I was going down to I was en route, and I had to go down to that grocery store near campus on the north side, whatever. There's a billboard that says "Vote No to Amendment 1." And I was like, "Oh shit, we got ballot items. I don't even know what these ballot items are." So I emailed Chris Davis, because Chris Davis likes to be mentioned on the show. You're welcome, Chris Davis. I said, "Hey man, where can I find all the list of the ballot items that aren't for seats? Because I need to figure these out, because we only got a couple months." And he emails me back and sends me this link, which is to Haggerty, Trey Haggart, the Secretary of State, which is essentially this, or at least part of their job is it's the state election coordinator, for lack of a better word. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 state constitution amendments. And so again, for a little bit of backstory, if you guys go back and listen to one of the Massey episodes, we talk about the process of amendments to the state constitution. So it has to be passed in 2 different sessions of legislation. And so back in, I guess, 19, Massey introduced one of these in. It was passed by the 111th session, and then back again here in January of this year, it was brought back up and passed again. And the numbers change. I think it's a super majority the first time around, and then a simple majority the second time around, and then it has to go to a ballot item. So we talked about this in some of the pot law stuff in the past too. Is like one of the things that was supposed to be a ballot item that I don't think actually made it through was the one about putting some questionnaires on the ballots about pot stuff. But so like different stuff, but essentially it is a minimum of like a 5-year process to change a ballot, or to get something on the ballot to be a change to the state constitution.
Well, look at 159. I think that's it.
Okay, so number 1, just to read them down, because I don't understand what any of them are yet, to be clear, is number 1 is a resolution to propose an amendment to Article 6, Section 5 of the Constitution to provide a method to select Attorney General and Reporter. I don't know if that's an elected office currently, and they're going to take it out of elected office. I'm not sure what that one is. I will dig into that. 154, this is the one that Massey did, proposing an amendment to Article 2 and Article 3 of the Constitution of Tennessee relative to the exercise of powers and duties if the governor is under disability. So it's not dead, just incapacitated for a period of time, and this is what the process will be now, which I think is a reasonable thing to have in place, which essentially is going to be the same as what it currently is, whoever the vice governor is, which is currently Speaker Sexton, I think
Randy McNally.
Yeah, McNally out of Oak Ridge, you're right. So he would take this. So essentially, if Governor Lee got hurt or something like that and was in a coma for a week, McNally would take over governorship for the period of time until he's back to health to work. I know that one. 159, a resolution to propose an amendment to Article 1, Section 33 of the Constitution of Tennessee to prohibit slavery and involuntary servitude. This amendment has been approved to appear on the November 8th ballot.
Yeah, that one threw me. I was like,
well, I think what it is, and because Governor Lee has been decent on criminal justice reform. He's been decent on trying to get some pathways back to citizenship or pathways back to normalcy or whatever, and trying to help people get out of jail and get back to life and lower the recidivism rate. That's one of his things that he focused on. And so I believe that under current statute is an inmate can be forced to work without pay as part of their punishment, but it's not, if it's not defined as part of their punishment, I think is what it is, because we were talking about this pre-show. Like, you get a DUI and you get to community service and you go clean up litter, that's an option, but it's also payment for your penalty. It's in the wording of it. This is your penalty to go clean up trash as community service or whatever. Where if you go to jail as a 13-year-old for shooting some little girl in the back of the head or whatever, and they put you out on a road crew, that wasn't part of your sentence. That wasn't.
I got you. Just thought, when I first read that, I was like, do you mean that slavery is not illegal in Tennessee? And it's taken us this long to actually change it?
Right. Like, and this goes back to our mass, or the definition of mass kind of part of the conversation, is that it's really more the involuntary servitude part of it that it comes into play, and and I think that's what it is. I don't know. I could be wrong. It could be that they just never officially abolished it.
Well, click on that 159.
Click on the 159 Senate Joint Resolution. Slavery and involuntary servitude are forever prohibited. Nothing in this section shall prohibit an inmate. Okay, so Section 33 currently states that slavery and involuntary servitude are forever prohibited. Nothing in this section shall prohibit an inmate from working when the inmate has been duly convicted of a crime. Be it further resolved that the foregoing amendment be referred to the 112th General Assembly, and that this resolution reporting such amendment be further. Fuck, I don't know.
It sounds like maybe that they're adding that in, that they can make inmates work.
Maybe it is. You're right. I will have to check on that one. I'll have to follow up, and we'll have to do it. Like I was telling Sam pre-show, I was like, I need to get somebody to come do a show, and we'll break all these down and just do one show. It's like, this is your ballot items this year, guys. They're going to be because we don't even know the wording yet either.
So where are you going to find somebody that understands this stuff?
It'd be Matt. I'll get Massey or Manis. I'll try to get Manis. I really want to get him in again. Anyway, before he is officially no longer my rep, because he's a quitter, because the party hates him. So anyway, continuing. 178 is a resolution to propose amendment to Article 9 relative to disqualifications. This amendment has been approved. I don't know what that means. 648. A resolution to propose an amendment to Article 11 relative to the right to work. And 913.
Yeah, I clicked on that one. That one has to do with unions. Like, just because you're in a union does not mean that you still have a right to work, kind of thing.
Oh, the 648?
Yeah.
Okay. Because this one, the 913 down here, I don't believe will be on the ballot. This is just, it's in its first of those two sessions. It's passed on its first reading. It will come back here in the 113th. And then on the next, that's the other detail I forgot. It has to be on a gubernatorial ballot. So
that's why it takes 5 years.
Right. So this one that's in process right now, it got its first round this year. It'll get a second round next year, but it won't actually end up on the ballot until 26, when the next gubernatorial race is.
That's Trey Hargett.
What did I say, Haggett?
I can't remember.
So I wonder if they
started to say Haggerty, and I stopped.
Do they have those rules? So they hope that, like, if it takes 5 years, the person that wanted to get that thing passed gets voted out of office, so then they doesn't have to go through. Like, it shouldn't be this hard to pass something that people want passed.
But it's an amendment. It's an amendment to the state constitution. Other than, it's not just an update or a change or a new law on the books, because everything has to go. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, Billy got a bunch of state Supreme Court stuff about the attempted voucher pilot program that he started a couple years ago. And it got tied up in the courts and all that kind of different stuff. And the state Supreme Court goes against the state constitution. And so to make it a state constitutional amendment makes it more permanent, because it's harder to change, but also because then the state Supreme Court is going against that ruling that's in, or that line that's in the Constitution, as opposed to, well, we can make a state law that breaks the state constitution. The Supreme Court will strike that down. The state Supreme Court will. Like, if, I don't know, like, I don't know the state constitution well enough, but, you know, in a broader, for the sake of example, I guess, is if, you know, somebody tried to come and we got arrested. KPD comes in here and arrests us for the podcast and says we're violating some bullshit thing.
FCC laws or whatever.
That, well, not even that. That it's some that whatever you rephrase that. Knox County sets up a no broadcasting without certain things in place or whatever, and we do it without. And sheriff comes in here and arrests us or whatever. We go to the Supreme Court, file, and it goes to the federal Supreme Court. And it's like, well, no, they have freedom of speech. They get to do their show. You can't stop them from doing their show. You can't make a law that says you can't do their show.
We're doing a show here? We're just sitting here talking. They're arresting you.
Are you recording this?
Is this being recorded? Is this going online?
We're in Tennessee, so only one party has to know that the phone call is being recorded.
Did you tell one of us?
He didn't tell it.
No,
you get to be
I know.
We're clear.
I know that it's being recorded. I'm one of the parties, so I counts legally. Like that,
Yes.
and that's a fact. If you want
So
to,
you're going to jail. We're okay.
if you want to record phone calls of anybody you want in the state of Tennessee, one party on the phone call has to know that it's being recorded, and
That's
that would be
stupid.
you.
You'd be the person that hit
It's me.
record.
Right. So, like, if I, because I mean, I who did I ask on that? I think I asked Sheriff Spangler on that. I asked somebody on that specifically. I was like, hey, so like, I get all these spam calls, and while I'm at work or whatever, I like to answer them because it's funny. But like, I've been thinking about trying to, you know, catch them. If I catch one when I'm at home, hook it up, record it, and just kind of waste their time and be a dick and make it kind of funny or whatever. And I was like, so in the state of Tennessee, can I do that? He's like, yeah, state of Tennessee is a one-party state. As long as one party knows, you can record whatever you want on the phone call.
That's funny.
And I was like,
Did you get that for Space Force on the back?
And I was like, no, that's actual NASA thing, or that was a space camp. Yeah, space camp.
Yeah, don't you have to go that before Space Force?
I don't. I've got no paperwork. They have not followed through on the lead that you gave them. I'm probably too old. This is probably really what it is. We don't have grandpas in Space Force.
That was a long play.
What?
Me signing you up for that.
I've got nothing. Like I
No, I was just saying it was like 3 months later, and you're like, "Damn it, what's this Space Force stuff?"
I'm not kidding. No, I haven't gotten any Space Force stuff. You brought it on the show one night. I was like, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah, I signed you up for Space Force." I was like,
Yeah, but then you said that email. You said you messaged us.
"Oh, I got an email."
Yeah, you
remember.
got something, and you were like, "Damn it!" And it was
yeah.
you got an email from the thing, your inquiry for joining Space Force.
Yeah, they're not in a hurry apparently with what's going on there. So post after we finished recording, Sam, we were talking afterwards, and I think something interesting came up in my drunken stupor at the time. Was you were talking about whatever Society of Engineers or something like that?
The what?
Some group of some like professional engineers society or something like that had done a survey on U.S. bridges and roads and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like a significant percentage are under would be
like
categorized
overall,
as unsafe and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, overall, I don't know if it was just our infrastructure in general, if they were saying bridges, roads in general, but most pretty much we get like a D.
Right, and I'd be curious to know what the specifics are of their study, like whether it's, because again, this gets into the fun jurisdictional nightmare.
Yeah.
Is it a state road? Is it a county road? Is it a federal road? That kind of shit.
Yeah, because some of them were dams, which I'm not sure where waterways, especially if it's Mississippi, like do they
Right,
split
whose
that in half?
jurisdiction? Yeah, I know that is a valid question, but but one thing that I'd heard, and I didn't go and research it to verify it though, that at least federally speaking, it's estimated about $41.5 billion, excuse me, with the B, billion, would get federal bridges and roads up to like a B.
So like
up to a passing grade.
half of what we spent on Ukraine.
Max is picking it up. That's where I'm heading. Because I always get into this little, like we had a tussle about, like, being good neighbors. And I get, like, what my struggle with the Ukraine thing is, like, again, I don't know how much we really hate Russia and how much it really fucking matters if Russia is remotely successful in whatever the fuck they're doing over there and whether that's good or bad for us. Period. I mean, we all lived through the Cold War for, like, the first handful of years of our lives. We don't remember any of that shit. The only reason I remember any of it is like my sister had a poster of the Berlin Wall getting taken down, and I think it was like a U2 poster, like the band U2 or whatever.
I remember watching the TV when I guess it was like a shot over, I guess the Kremlin or whatever, where they swapped the flag from the
sickle and hammer.
Yeah, and the actual it's red, white,
and
blue.
Blue. Yeah. It's because red, white, and blue's where it's at.
But yeah, it's the Ukraine thing is. I mean, I think most people have kind of forgot about it, unless someone's like, "Oh, the war in Ukraine." You're like, "Oh yeah."
I mean,
that's
it is
still
definitely
going on. I forgot about that.
It is definitely past its peak of curiosity.
It's newsworthiness
I still think, and I haven't. I mean, and to prove your point,
I read about it every day.
I usually one of my podcasts that I listen to that does 3 a week. They have some portion of it every episode, so I hear about some updates at least 2 or 3 times a week too. But it's certainly not everywhere all the time, like it was for the first couple weeks.
I can't even tell you what's going on there right now.
I don't know what's going on right there, but I think. But again, to me, I don't care.
Sam?
I don't care what's going on. People are dying, and it sucks. And I'm not saying that's okay. My apathy is not permission. Like, it's just I don't care, because if we're going to get down to the brass tacks of it, if it's our job as the richest, most powerful country in the world to go around and make sure that atrocities don't exist, there are plenty of other places we could be spending our money and time and energy. But we don't talk about them.
Like roads and bridges.
Or that too. But I'm saying, even if we don't want to be selfish with it, if we want to be some weird nationalist, altruistic version of whatever the fuck.
Well, I just think it's funny.
There's plenty of other nations with plenty of other human rights violations and all sorts of stuff, probably most of which we kind of accidentally helped start, but whatever. But we're not... That's not in the news every day. That's not a big fuss. It's just Ukraine for some reason, Biden's. I don't know what the big deal is about Ukraine versus these other countries that have dictators that are brutally massacring plenty of people all the time. We don't talk about those. We just talk about this one constantly and spend billions of dollars on it.
Well, I just think it's funny that it's like, we can't fix these roads. We're going to come up with this $1 billion to fix these roads. And they're like, oh, war, here's $4 billion. Like, where does this money come from that we can just, on a whim, just giving them money?
Well, it's like one of the complaints, I can't remember who was, it's one of the GOP congressional members who pitched a fit and said no to sending money to Ukraine. We did it anyway because the votes were there or whatever. And then something else comes up that is not really a GOP talking point or whatever, but like the excuse before was we don't have the money for that program. And well, it's like, now the program's up and apparently spending money is okay, so vote yes for it. It's like, no, we still don't have the money for the program. But like the complaint was, it's like, well, you said that, you said you would do it if not for, the funding issues. It's like, well, apparently the funding doesn't matter, so vote yes. It's like, well, the funding does matter to me. That's part of what my stance is as a senator or whatever. I need to figure out who it was specifically. I apologize. But it's just like, okay. I don't know. Again, like your point being, yes. So where does this money come from? I don't know. I don't know either. I mean, the reality is, poof.
Is there a rainy day fund with $1 trillion sitting in that they can just give people money? And
we still run a $500 billion deficit or more every year from the $4 trillion budget that the federal government runs anyway.
I just don't get it.
I don't either. And again, but again, that goes back to my whole point in the Ukraine thing. It's like, yes, it sucks. I'm not okay with it. I don't want this to be happening anywhere in the world. But why this one? Why do we pick this one? Why are we dumping a bunch of money in that one? The old man adage of, you don't tell somebody else how to fix their house if yours is falling apart. Well, ours is falling apart badly. So can we just focus in a little bit for a little while and maybe tone down how much we care about what's going on in the rest of the world and kind of focus on ourselves? That's my stance on it. Sam?
I mean, if you want to be a turtle and just put your head in your shell,
go ahead.
That'll protect you.
I mean, it's not. I would argue that for the most part in our interventionism, it's not helping us. It hasn't helped us. Our 20 years in Afghanistan hasn't helped us. Our 2 trips to Iraq haven't helped us. Syria's expenditures haven't helped us.
And Ukraine has caused gas prices to go crazy. But then the gas companies, have you looked at the stock of Exxon and stuff over the last 6 months?
That's a separate issue, and I think there's a problem there. But that's an excuse. That's a greed excuse that's well played out. And for some reason, they know we can't do anything. We're stuck. We can't be like, well, fuck you. I'm not going to buy gas. bring your gas prices down. I'm not buying. No, I can't. I have to for work.
Everybody does. You don't
Yeah,
have a choice.
for most people, it's not an option. Anyway, I'm a turtle. I stuck my head in. I pulled my head in my shell, and I don't care about anything else.
I mean, you can always find parts of the world that could use help or could not use our help. But, I mean, for us benefiting other countries, I mean, we do a lot of aid programs to many impoverished countries. I mean, do we want to just stop doing that? Or is it only we don't want to stop conflicts?
No, but I think the point is those.
Well, I mean,
When
that's
we're giving-
the logic.
when we're-
I mean, if
well, when
we
we're
have,
giving-
we
when we're-
have poverty. Was it like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 kids go to school hungry every day?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think we should care about our.
In America, right?
So we just
not
stop any funding of any other country until we balance our balance sheet.
But also what we're talking about is we're not talking about, hey, approved spending, like this is, we're going to give so much money to this country, we're going to give so much money to this country. Like, there was never, a year ago, no one's like, hey, let's give $4 trillion to, not $4 trillion, whatever, $4 billion to
hey,
Ukraine. It was
let's
just
set aside
all on a whim. We're like, hey,
right. Let's set aside $1 trillion for world aid. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
is it budgeted that we have a?
I don't know if everything that's been given to Ukraine is just a straight donation.
no.
I mean, I know that the
that's
most
true
recent
because there's
40-something
guns
billion
and stuff like that. And
I mean, I know this. The most recent 40 billion or whatever was. It wasn't. We didn't give them piles of cash. We gave them stuff.
Right.
But it was 40 billion in expenditure. Which again, I mean, same thing. Like, I joked about when we left Afghanistan. Like, we're leaving Afghanistan, but our Department of Defense budget goes up. Oh, because we got to buy all the shit. We got to buy new shit that we
all the shit that we left there. How about we tell Ukraine, hey, look, we left all this stuff in Afghanistan. Go get it.
Well, because then it's officially our stuff there, and then Russia thinks it's us anyway. But I mean, and right,
It's
but that's what this is. This is let's give away our stockpiles so that the Department of Defense can buy all new stuff because their buddies in the arms manufacturing company want to keep those stocks going.
I know they've been talking about that. I think it's like the Stinger. It's whatever, like handheld, basically, like anti-tank, anti-aircraft missile launcher, basically. Rocket launcher, yeah.
Like that.
But apparently they're saying that our stockpile of those are now low because as many we've donated throughout the world.
Right. And to what? Again, I don't know. I mean, I understand that I come off selfish.
Name me another conflict that is going on right now that another major superpower is essentially taking over another country.
I mean, okay.
When you say, I understand there's conflicts going on.
How many? Like, what? Us, China, and Russia. Are there any other superpowers on the planet?
Depends on how you define superpowers.
We've already stated for the record that if China goes into Taiwan, we have military conflict with China.
Right.
So hey, let's pump a bunch of money into some proxy bullshit in Ukraine with Russia, and we'll have plenty of cash left over to defend Taiwan against China here when that happens, because that's in our national interest.
Who's going to make Nikes then? If we go to war with China,
India. I mean, but the real question, I mean, are there any other superpowers in conversation? Is France or Germany or UK a superpower?
Borderline. Nuclear power, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know what
any
their
Middle Eastern
standing army
countries? Is Iran a superpower? Saudis?
No.
I mean, the Saudi checkbook's pretty fucking powerful.
Right.
I mean, they're in the middle of annihilating the who is it?
Iran has
the Houthis of Yemen. They've been doing that for about a decade now, thanks to our monies. The Houthis. In Yemen, that we've been the Air Force for the Saudis in their genocidal campaign, but nobody talks about that one. So if the Saudis count, then yeah, there's a superpower invading some little tiny country and has been at war with them for a decade. But we're supporting that one. We're not fighting against that one. That's the closest one I can think of.
My wife got this little plaque in Curacao of this lady painting on the side of the road. It says, how to be successful. Take care of your own shit.
I mean, that's part of it. I mean, that is part of, again, in that stupid cliche way, that is part of it to be. You fix your house before you go telling people how to live in theirs. There's a better version of that, but you get the idea. And I think that's one of the problems we have. I don't know if you've seen it, but in I've seen a number of headlines that are the decline of the American empire, the fall of the American empire, the destruction of the American empire, something along those lines. Like, we like to pretend that America isn't the old empire, like the British that we escaped from kind of deal. But, I mean, it's kind of what we've been doing for the last 100 years. At least post World War II, so not quite 100 years. We've been going around trying to recreate the world in our own image. And it costs a lot of money. That's why empires don't last. It's because you can't do it long term.
I mean, what would happen if we just pulled out of every country we were in and just been like, hey, you guys do what you want. We're worried about our own stuff.
We'd have a bunch of people that hate us, but we already have a bunch of people that hate us. I mean, if realistically there's places that we are in there and that is the deterrent factor from whatever terrible thing happening, then we'll have more people that hate us on the other side.
Would there another country step up? Like, what is, you have all these Australian people talking about how shitty America is with, gun control and all that kind of stuff. What do they do worldwide?
I mean, they said stuff. I mean, they're pretty active.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they're as active as the United States
but
on doing stuff. Are all these other...
to me, and again, this is the capitalist asshole that I am, or whatever you want to call it, but to me, it's like, as... I don't know if Australia is part of NATO. I wouldn't think so. They might be, because I mean they were active in World War II as well.
I don't think they're part of. No.
But anyway, just for the NATO countries.
I don't know if it's NATO, but UN for sure. Yeah.
But just as far as like NATO countries go, as far as like, I mean, how's the finances of NATO work? It's like those who can't afford pay more, those who can't afford send more troops. Or is it kind of like we've got 20 member countries, everybody sends a 20th every time? How do we do this? Like, how does that break down? Because maybe it's a perception thing. I could be totally wrong on this, but at least the perception to me is that when stuff goes on, we pay more and we send more bodies. I know the UK and Germany and France combined haven't put $40 billion into Ukraine.
You sure?
Pretty sure. I could probably look it up.
Man, if only we had like
the George Bush or the George Bush
a browser in front of us.
4-2 in the Avs Oilers game. If anybody wants.
So basically, it's all of Europe.
Who was that?
And United States and Canada.
The home team.
That's NATO.
Okay.
It's all of Europe. I mean, it's Albania, Bulgaria, Belgium, Canada, Croatia, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Montenegro, Netherlands, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States. So it's just, NATO is just Europe and Canada and America, basically.
But I think there's been very rare times that like NATO has amassed a large force to where, we were like, hey, we're going to send in 15,000, they can send 2,000.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not normally a large force that gets sent. But I think you are right to assume that they probably do look at, America with a larger army is going to send less than Latvia, that probably has a tenth the size of a standing army as we do.
Yeah.
You can't expect them just to send their whole entire army to match us, soldier to soldier. So I'm assuming it does kind of break down to the actual logistics of what they can provide. Because I'm assuming, much like us, they probably have a National Guard that's kept just in case of national disasters and other things that, the military does come in and help civilian-wise.
UN is everybody, just about.
Right.
It's like 52 countries or something.
Yeah, I mean, Russia, China, Japan, India, Germany, France.
Okay, so here's so far trying to dig through this Newsweek thing real fast. The U.S. aid alone would put Ukraine 14th in the world in terms of annual military expenditure. More than Israel, Iran. That's a pretty big jump in spending. It would also swell Ukraine's military capacity beyond the annual military budgets of NATO nations such as Canada, Spain, and Turkey and Poland. So just the U.S.'s portion pushes Ukraine past multiple other nations in total military spending.
Yeah, but we got expensive shit.
That's
That's why we charge so much for it whenever we build it.
Exactly. You got to cut all that price down by like 60%.
One destroyer is like $50 billion.
Okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, the UK
we give them one destroyer, and that's the budget right there.
The UK in their own military budget is $68.4 billion.
Okay.
So 2/3 of UK's annual budget we just sent to Ukraine for their military. 3/4 of Germany's total budget. Russia spends somewhere in the $65.9 billion on its forces in 2021.
I don't know what I would just sent to them.
I mean, if dollar bills win wars, then Russia's already lost.
I mean, I didn't realize they provide like 40% of the world's wheat.
I didn't realize that as well. That is a very interesting subject.
I didn't realize how like large. I forget like what they compared it to, but it's a really large country.
But at the same time, Russia provides like 90+% of natural gas for all of Europe.
Right.
And so we gave up the wheat, or through this process, we've lost both. Europe doesn't have access to the gas, which some of them are buying anyway because they don't have a fucking choice. And then the wheat supply is all fucked up because of what's going on.
Yeah, Russia hasn't shut the pipelines down.
Right, but they're supposed to be sanctioned out of exporting it to at least UN countries. But Germany, for example, doesn't have a choice. They can't get natural gas anywhere else. And so, we're doing our part. We're not buying wheat and we're not buying oil from Russia, which we never really did anyway. But we're paying more for oil because of what it's done to the world market. But Germany's still buying Russian oil because they have to. So, the moral of the story is we are paying for this.
Don't poke the Russian bear.
I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but it's like Germany's not paying for this like we are, and it's their neighbor. It's their actual real deal tomorrow safety that's in play here. But Germany's not paying like we're paying.
They're not a direct neighbor.
Isn't there a couple countries in between?
Poland's in between them.
I think there's some countries in between.
Well, so from Ohio to here, so Columbus, Ohio to here is the distance between the edge of Germany and the edge of Ukraine. My bad.
Yeah. But that's also the point.
If Russia takes Ukraine and wants to fly a jet into Germany, they'll be there in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, if it's a nice fast jet.
Yeah.
My bad. They're not actual border countries. I apologize.
I mean, you can argue the term of neighbor.
But Finland and
your
Sweden,
neighbor could still be somebody halfway down the block, and they're in your neighborhood.
Right.
Now you have Poland.
But I wouldn't call Max my neighbor. He's on the other side of town.
You have Poland to the east, and on the other side of Poland you have Lithuania, Belarus, and Ukraine. And then you have Russia.
What's the latest on the Finland-Sweden part of the conversation? I haven't heard much on that recently.
Turkey's opposed
Turkish.
to it.
Well, Finland has a big border.
Because apparently,
right.
I guess it only takes one NATO member
to say no.
To say no.
Yeah. Thank you, Turkey. We should say no, too.
Why do you care?
Do what?
Why do you care?
Because as few countries...
we shouldn't worry about anything else.
If we're going to be part of NATO,
yeah.
I would prefer not to have any countries that directly border Russia, because apparently Putin wants to invade border countries, and if he's dumb enough to set one foot in Russia, then what is it? Article 5 kicks in, and we're at war with Russia. And I'm a big fan of not going to war with Russia.
I agree with that.
That's why I care. We can't afford what we're already doing in the war with Russia.
We would still be in that same if he attacked a NATO state regardless.
Right, but that's if he goes through Ukraine into Poland, for example, because that would probably be the closest one. Well, Turkey is an actual border country, so he could go into Turkey if he wanted to. But now it goes to...
No, Turkey's not a border country.
Oh, I apologize. I'm not good with my geography.
There's Georgia in between Turkey and Russia.
But Finland is a border state, and Finland is the largest border of
I think it's like over 1,000
in the
miles.
on the European side or whatever.
Yeah, it's close to the size of Ukraine, I would say.
Regardless, I would prefer not to have any border countries if we don't have to. Again, how is it in our best interest? Yes, it sucks for Finland, and I hate that for them. But how is that good for me and you? And I know it's selfish, and I'm a dick. But I don't believe in altruism anyway, so...
Well, Estonia, that's a border country, and they're part of NATO. And Latvia...
Well, part of the problem here is Daddy Bush said NATO would never go west of Berlin. It would never go east of Germany, excuse me. It would never go east of Germany. That was I don't know if it was a written promise, but it was a verbal promise to Gorbachev or whoever it was at the time.
I think it would have been Gorbachev.
We will not expand NATO east of Germany. And then we added Poland and whatever the fuck that one you just said.
Estonia and Latvia.
And a couple more, and there's been more in conversation, and now we're talking about Finland and Sweden, and there was a conversation about Ukraine. I mean, I understand.
And Lithuania.
There's a whole mountain of decades of history that are all piled up into this thing. And it's not as simple as some dick invaded his neighbor. It's not that simple.
Yeah, why is Finland not part of NATO?
Because they're a border country, and that was one of the rules, that at least unspoken rules, that we weren't going to ever do.
But Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania are okay. Finland, Belarus, Ukraine, not okay.
No, they've just always preferred to be a neutral state.
Right,
they've never had a desire to join.
And by
it was not. They haven't joined because, like, there was an agreement made 50 years ago that said,
well, their opinion doesn't
if you're
fucking
next
matter.
to Russia, then sorry, you're shit out of luck.
Their want to be there is not that necessarily that important. To be fair, why would we want to add them?
I thought Switzerland was the neutral country.
Why do we want to deny them?
Because when some dumb shit border patrol guy from Russia walks across the border accidentally and shoots somebody, we're now at war with Russia. That's why we don't want to add Finland. Why do we want to add Finland?
I don't think your scenario would negate an international conflict.
I mean, that would be the definition of an act of war, which by definition of the NATO membership, if any country is all countries, we are now at war with Russia, by definition.
So when supposedly when the Russians went to the UK, had those two crazy spies that were tourists, and I can't remember if there was a couple situations. I know one the guy died, and the other one I think
the poison stuff.
Yeah, the poison stuff. Yeah. So that was done on UK soil. I mean, did that start an international conflict?
It could have. It very well could have. It would have been well within the rules at play. Okay. Why do we want to add Finland? What benefit is it to the rest of us in NATO to add Finland?
Who are we to say no? I mean,
we are the fucking group. This is our group that we built. The rules at play says one country says no. That's right. It's a no. We are exactly the people who are allowed to say no.
We started it all by ourselves. It was our idea. We control.
Okay,
NATO.
We as in the current body of NATO, which by definition one country says no, it's a no.
Right.
Why do we, as part of NATO, who has the power to say no, want to add them, regardless of what the rest of NATO wants?
Why don't we add Russia and then we go to war with Ukraine?
Not a bad play.
They don't want to be in our club.
They probably don't. It'd be an interesting pitch, though. Somebody pitch that at Putin just to see what happens. But seriously,
by the way, I mean,
why do you want them?
We're about to have a party next year. Like, do you want to come?
Why would you?
You're not doing very well in Ukraine. Do you need some support? Do you want to join NATO?
Okay, so Finland wants to be in. I respect the idea that Finland wants to be in. Great. Why would we want to allow them in? Because we have the right to allow them in. That's the way that's the way it's written. And whether that and again, let me define my we here, whether that we is us as Americans or we as NATO at large. Why do we want to add them? So what's the point of NATO? It's a defense alliance.
So it's a defense alliance. So then adding Finland helps us out in the defense alliance.
How so?
More people.
Do bodies win wars?
Money wins wars. More money.
Finland
and more bodies. Yeah, bodies win wars too.
Okay. Finland's total GDP is $271 billion. Mm-hmm. That's their total GDP. I don't know what their military is.
It's all IKEA, baby.
That is all IKEA.
Now they're big,
so if I give you $5 right now, is that going to help you with your household money?
No.
Absolutely will.
Okay, not in any significance. Not in the sense that I would be willing to shoot my neighbor because that's the deal with the $5 you're giving me.
No,
because they're not just giving us money. It's an agreement.
Yeah,
there's two sides to the agreement. Okay, so I'm sorry. Do your example again.
Well, I'm just saying, that example. But if 10 people give you, now that's $50. Okay. All that bit helps out, and especially if they're an ally of ours. Is Finland an ally of ours?
No. Why not? Because they're not a member of NATO.
So they're not an ally at all.
Not a congressionally approved. Not as part of any congressionally approved alliance that I know of. I'm pretty sure NATO is the only congressionally approved alliance that the United States has.
So they're an enemy.
Is that the definition? If
Well, I'm just
not,
saying there. I mean, if you're
not
an ally or an enemy, yeah. I mean,
If you're not with us, you're against us.
So we're at war then, currently. And that's because that dichotomy only exists when you're at war. Right? Or is that dichotomy that exists all the time? You're a friend or an enemy, period? All the time with no exceptions? If you're not my friend, you're my enemy?
so like when I was in Russia, like on our ship, you look at the Russian ships around us, and they were all listed because our ship had the computers that track all the ships, and it shows like what's locked on and blah blah. All the Russian ships, even though we were training with them, they were listed enemy, 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 enemy on our boards.
Okay.
We were doing training. We were the first infantry troops to cross train with the Russian infantry.
Have you been on a boat with allies?
Well, in Japan, we didn't have that issue.
But when you're looking at the screen, the boats
Japan
listed?
is
It's like a heart
not
emoji next to him.
No, but like Japan was not.
But I'm saying, are they listed as a thing, as an enemy because they're not an ally?
No, Japan was not listed. Japanese ships were not listed as enemy according to our ships.
What were they listed as?
I don't know. They didn't
So
say,
then Sweden would be listed as nothing, just like the
they were
Japanese
not.
ships are
I
listed
mean,
as nothing.
but why was Russia listed as an enemy?
Well,
They're part of the UN, but they're not part of NATO. Japan's is part of the UN, but not part of NATO. So
maybe that was part of the training thing. I don't know,
no, it was not part of the training thing.
because Russia's still an enemy then at the time by U.S. definition.
By the U.S. definition, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so other than whatever portion of money that Finland can contribute, what's our other pro and con relationship here of bringing them into the UN?
Okay, so let's go with another thing. They want to start a homeowners association here in this place.
Okay.
Are you going to try to get as many people on your side?
I don't have to.
Why?
Because actually, that's a really good example. Because a homeowners association in an already existing neighborhood, everybody would have to approve of it for it to pass.
Yeah, but what if it was not?
Which is very
everyone
similar.
to pass? What if it's only majority, 51%, have to approve?
I don't care. Then I'm going to be the one that doesn't approve, and they're going to fine me, but I'm not going to pay my fines because I don't agree to it. I'm not part of this association. I don't have to be part of this association. There's no obligation to it. I didn't sign up for that. I didn't buy this house in a neighborhood with a homeowners association intentionally.
Okay, so you're going. I'm using an analogy. I'm not using a fact. I'm just saying, like, you would, if that was the case, you'd be like, dude, we need to have these people on our side. You tell me, you say, I just wouldn't care at all. I wouldn't be talk to your neighbor or whatever.
Well, again, I think part of your analogy is all on the presupposition that we're already at war. Is that the statement that are we gonna go with that as our base to what we're talking about? That we're already at war with Russia?
Huh?
Are we already at war with Russia and we need all the friends we can?
Okay, how about a better one?
If we don't let Finland in, are they going to be an enemy? Are they going to side with Russia instead because fuck you guys?
Okay, so
It's possible.
how about that? Okay, another situation.
If we sub them, that gives them that much more incentive to have some kind of defensive pact. If I get attacked by anyone, no one's got my back.
Okay. Then why aren't they asking to be in Russia's?
How about this
thing,
Sam? How many guns do you own?
2.
He has 2 guns. Right?
Yeah.
It's still another body that can shoot a gun. Why would you not want more people?
Because again, it's still the preposition, the presupposition in this conversation is that we are either at war or anticipating a real armed conflict with Russia. And is that what you want? Is that where we're at? We are anticipating that this is going to be. We are going to war with Russia.
Well, what's the point of NATO to have an alliance? Alliance for what? For oil prices? Alliance for grain prices? Or alliance for defense of our country if we need it?
Okay.
What's the point of NATO then?
It's a very good question, and I want to answer your question with another question. Is the point of NATO for the United States to have to distract Russia with other targets so that I bring Sam and you along so you get shot and I stay safe because I'm the furthest one away? Is that our goal with NATO?
Well, I'm just saying more friends is better.
I acknowledge what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like all friends aren't equal.
I agree, but so we would not want Finland on our side that breaks out. So now Finland's caught in a situation, and they're like, NATO does not want me. I don't have a choice in this world war that's break out, so I'm going to take Russia's side. Now we're fighting Finland and Russia, where we could have Finland on our side, but now we don't have them on our side because we were saying your GDP is only $271 billion, and you don't have very many troops. But now we just added to our enemy's group of people.
Okay, so all right, I take it back. I want Finland in because I want the Russians to be bothered in killing them before they come over and kill us. You're right. I'm sorry. I didn't catch. I wasn't putting the right pieces together.
Bullet barriers.
Yeah, let's get a body shield in place. I like that.
Outside of, you don't see the benefit to America of them joining, and then it sounds like you're pushing back on that. You don't feel it's going to benefit us as much, and it may anger Russia.
I mean,
is that your main pushback?
That is a point that we haven't made yet. But yes, I mean,
and for our Finland followers, not everybody is against you guys.
I'm not against Finland at all.
2 of these 3 people enjoy your country and want you to join.
I'm not against Finland at all. I just don't see it as a tactical
Finland
advantage.
Joining.
So okay, let me see if I could do another low key analogy.
I'm just trying to figure out what your main reasons for.
So your neighbor 4 doors down wants his neighbor's house. Is it at all a benefit to you to stop him from taking your neighbor's house? Because there's still 2 houses between you and them anyway. If
I think that neighbor is planning on taking multiple houses.
Okay, so then we're in agreement, at least, that, or I'm understanding you correctly, in that your assumption is that this is the beginning of the new Cold War, and Russia is going to continue to take and take and take. And that the strategy that the West is playing right now of let's keep Putin busy in Ukraine as long as possible is the correct strategy. So that
so we need to go back, and if we're going to use that as the analogy, we're in an analogy as the guy that's 4 doors down now had the house that was his, that's 2 doors down from you, taking away from him, and he waits 20 years and says, I want my house back that you took away from me. Now am I going to go back in there and go, well, you took it away from him to begin with, which is a situation why he wants Ukraine back, and Lithuania and Latvia and all those other countries that used to be Russia.
Right. Yeah, I believe he said he wants to recreate the Soviet Union.
Okay.
To a certain extent.
I understand, yeah, I know.
So we didn't do anything when that was taken away from Russia.
Because we were part of the taking away from Russia part. Okay, so okay, so again, I mean, fine. Then you helped your neighbor 2 doors down liberate themselves from the neighbor 3 doors down 20 years ago. The neighbor 3 doors down wants it back.
Well, it's kind of like the American Indian, that the people are like, we need to, give this land back to the American Indians. And I heard this guy, he said, which American Indians are you talking about? And the guy was like, well, the American Indians. He's like, well, no, what tribe? Do we give it back to the Cherokee? Because the Cherokee took it over from the Black Hawk. The Black Hawk had that land.
Right.
And then Cherokee came in and said, no, we want your land. And the Cherokee take it over. So do we give it back to the Black Hawk, the first people to get there?
So
or do we give it to the people that had the last person?
Let's just all go back to Africa, because that's where it all came from.
The question is that, he had a good point. He's like, who are we giving it back to? Because we took it away from somebody that took it away from somebody,
Look, the history of mankind is not pretty. It's not nice. It's not friendly at all. And but you can't. I guess you can't close Pandora's box. You can't unring the bell. Whatever stupid fucking cliche you want to drop on that. This is where we are.
I think a more accurate thing with 4 houses down, that person taking over a house. It's like they just took over the house and kicked you out. They took over the house. You're still living there, and they've taken over your house.
Yeah, that's my neighbor's house. It's not my house.
Right.
Just again.
No, I'm just saying it's more America than they just kicked him out of the house.
Exactly what the government does to us.
There.
It's your house, but you have to pay us to be in that house.
Oh shit! You preach, son, preach it.
Do you guys own your business?
Well, no, we did not.
I mean, we don't own the furniture in our business.
We own the right to operate that business, but we don't own the business.
Right. Yeah, I mean, any number of reasons we can get shut down any day that whoever deems it necessary that they want to do so. You know, and literally with padlocks on the door. I mean, because again, we operate in a gray area market. I mean, it's legal. It's 100% legal in the state. We're not doing anything illegal. But right on that, we're on the fine line, and we know it, and we know the law on it. But if some excited little deputy walks in and decides that we're selling pot, he can lock our door, take our keys, take us to jail, cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and lawsuits and all the different stuff to get our business back. And maybe on the other side of it, we can counter sue and spend another $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 and we file for damages and then the lawyer takes a third. That's how those usually work. But we go sue Knox County and hey, who pays Knox County sheriff's budget? Oh yeah, we do.
Well, so have you seen any stuff on Elon Musk and his patents?
No.
He's released all his patents.
How did I miss this?
He does.
I listened to the 5-hour epic. Sorry, go ahead.
He said, I released my patents. Anything you want. You want to clone the Tesla car? You can do that. And he said, the only people that win in lawsuits are lawyers. He said Apple and Samsung have been fighting over patents and stuff for years. And he's like, neither one of them winning.
Right.
The only people that win is lawyers. He's like, all my patents are open now. Right. You want to build a Tesla car exactly like mine? Do it.
And it doesn't.
I thought that was interesting.
Thing of not allowing anyone to work on cars. Has he kind of dropped that pushback?
That was a Tesla thing. I don't know. I mean,
if that was a patent reason, whatever.
Well, no, it's right. They're not necessarily
not really
related.
Patent, yeah.
They're not necessarily related, but if the technology is available, then you should be able to work on your own if you know how to do it.
That stuff is just
you're still a
programming.
Right. You're a fucking rocket scientist at that point if you know how to do the programming and engineering on them.
Crazy recalls of issues they've had with the automated driving and I guess pedestrian and whatever avoidance, object avoidance.
Yeah.
But something we just got they're just going to send out a downloadable patch.
I'll tell you what,
so
on that,
take it to get fixed. It's no, we're gonna beam out this update that
right.
your car's just make sure your car's on tomorrow at 10 a.m. and you'll have an update.
Right, when you're on the supercharger, it'll ping the system, and the system will know that it's being charged, and then we'll send you the update.
Yeah.
Have you seen the videos of the Tesla driving through the graveyards?
No.
Yeah, it's driving the path of graveyards, and at first I was like. He's like, there's nobody out here. Why is this showing on the little screen? And I was like, oh, it's just recognizing the tombstones as people, right? Mm-hmm. They're things sticking up. But no, the graveyards are flat tombstones. But when you're driving through, it's person all over the grassy area. And I was like, that's a little weird.
I'll have to look that up. That seems creepy.
I did hear. I think it was somewhere in California where they're still working on completely autonomous, I guess designated highways or roads or whatever. And I guess it's a testing ground for whatever research facility that's around there. But there's some car that keeps driving through these people's neighborhood, and they keep seeing this driverless car driving through the neighborhood.
Hey, you know what a driverless interstate would be?
No,
a train.
Do we call train tracks interstates?
I'm just saying, if the whole self-driving vehicle roadway would be...
Well, no, the trains have a conductor.
Yeah, they do. They have a person on it.
I mean, how is a train different than a bus?
And at least as of right now, that you can't, even automated whatever, you still have to have a driver. You have to be in the driver's seat. You can't not, legally speaking, not be in the car.
Right.
I want to ride
and actually, maybe not U.S. trains, but I think it's Japan. Their passenger trains has nobody. It's all computers.
I want to ride a train. I think that's on my bucket list of things to do. Take a train from Chicago to
Seattle or something.
Seattle and go through Montana and have like your little cart with your bed, like, you know, and I think that'd be fun. I know it's kind of a waste of time for what you want to do, but
I didn't realize until I started digging down. I think I've mentioned it on the show before, but started digging down through the different governmental departments and things. But Amtrak is a federal department.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and it's weird. Like it's kind of interesting. Like, who was I talking to about that?
Joe Biden's run Amtrak a billion times.
Well, there's apparently there was talk of bringing an Amtrak line through Virginia, Bristol, Knoxville down to Atlanta or something like that, and Tennessee wasn't having it.
Oh, Tennessee's assholes.
But I would love to have a train that goes from here to Memphis. With a stop in Nashville?
And a stop in Waverly?
I mean, stop in Nashville and then take the last little bit. But yeah, you know.
They talked about it years ago. I think they called it like 5 counties, 1 vision, where it was, you know, a train that would go to Maryville, train that went to Oak Ridge.
I think that's another option that I think that's an issue Knoxville needs to address.
And we didn't even have buses where our business is.
Yeah, and we're in the city.
Unless you're not a bus
The city pays, like, that's part of what you pay if you have city taxes, is you pay for subsidy of the CAT bus system.
Damn it.
It is not a fair funded.
I think it's partly a societal thing where we've talked about it before. You know, they kind of get screwed, and I've seen where the CAT ridership has gone up whenever gas prices have gone up. But I mean, essentially, they kind of see it, and I'm sure you guys have seen, you know, the CAT bus driving around. They're like, "There's 4 people on that whole bus."
Yeah.
So it's, you know, CAT looks at that and they're like, "Well, there's only 4 people," so they continually kind of keep cutting, you know, certain lines or only doing certain trips out to certain areas.
They're all electric now.
No, they're not all electric.
Most of them are. They're working on. That's the direction. That's the attempt.
But I mean, from CAT's perspective, they look at it, they're like, well, nobody's riding this. We don't need to keep expanding our lines. And a lot of people are like, I would ride the CAT more if it came out to my neighborhood. So I think we're
it's a chicken or an egg.
We're kind of stuck there in the middle. It was like, well, nobody's riding it, so they're not going to keep extending, you know, all the way out to Farragut and all the way down to South Knox.
Well, I mean, by definition, it stays within the city limits because it is Knoxville Area Transit. That is what CAT stands for. It is a city organization. It is not a private. It is a city. It's at minimum, it's a city subsidized organization, but I believe it is actually property. Like those buses, the city of Knoxville owns those buses.
Right.
Oh, we'll never get a subway. Like, it's just so nice when you're in a city with a subway. It's so easy to get around.
But I mean, I think Knoxville.
I like the Europeans above ground subways, where essentially like it's a subway that, I mean, you have train tracks in a street. But I mean, they're going around the town.
Trolleys.
Well, like Chicago's like that. Sometimes it's underground, sometimes it's above ground.
Is it? Yes, Chicago. They got the L. They call it the elevated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Knoxville could do well with one. I just don't. I mean, like Nashville doesn't even have one. And Nashville actually has the population to function one.
Yeah.
But I think I've already pitched this. I know I've talked about it on the show before, but I think it's a big cross right through downtown Knoxville. You go from Turkey Creek to, like, what is that, Straw Plains area, with a handful of stops in between. One big terminal downtown that intersects with the north-south that goes up front.
Emory down all the way to Chapman Highway.
All the way down Chapman Highway. And maybe have a spur that comes off that one that goes to the airport. Because did you know that the airport is City of Knoxville property?
Is it?
Is it?
It's weird.
Huh. It is. It is the Knoxville Airport that is under the municipality of the City of Knoxville.
Interesting.
If we lease it from Alcoa,
I don't know how it works. Yeah. I'm not sure how that whole shakedown works.
On another side note, completely different.
Subject change.
I'm starting stem cell injections. Do you guys know anything about that?
I know a lot about that.
Really? Do you?
I haven't done it.
I've heard a few people talk about it.
I've heard many good things about it. Yeah.
So my wife has been bugging me about this QC Kinetics. Do they advertise with us?
No, so shut up. Don't say who it is. Just talk about them. And then next time you're ready to visit, be like, hey, freebie.
Yeah.
I'll talk about you on my big super podcast with 17 standard listeners.
So I went down and had like a free, like, whatever, talk about. And to me, it sounded like hoodoo, voodoo,
It's
kind
magic.
of like. And I'm like, well, I was like, I'll try it. You know, we'll spend the money and try it because none of it's covered by insurance because insurance companies want people to pay for surgery and stuff like that. So I went to the first thing, and what they did is they took blood out, and then they took the plasma out of my blood.
Mm-hmm.
And
So they're making your stem cells.
no, yes, but not to begin with. So they took the plasma out of my blood, and they injected it in 5 places in my spine, and then 2 places in my butt. I don't know. She said that.
I just wanted to touch your butt. It's cool.
Yeah, whatever.
I get it. I want to touch your butt too.
Oh yeah, and it burned. Like it was like injecting acid into your back. I was like, this is not fun. But so it was last Tuesday, a week ago. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, my back felt great. Like I was like, man, this is so weird. And then the pain started coming back. But that was the first step where they said they treat the area, something. I don't know. I wasn't listening too much on this stuff. And then I have to go back here.
Is it going to work? Yes. Okay, cool. Do it.
Yeah.
That's all I can.
It's going to work. I'm going to spend this money to work. And then when I go back next week and they do the exact same thing, and then I go back 3 weeks later and they pull bone marrow out of my hip and they remove the stem cells.
That's going to hurt.
Yeah, it is. I'm not looking forward to that. Like, you ask them, it's going to hurt. Like, they said the injections don't really hurt.
A little bit, maybe.
And that burned. You know, it's like I was laying down on that table and like they did like a numbing spray, like cold spray on it. And I don't think that really did anything. And they said that wouldn't really hurt. And then they said the bone marrow thing is going to hurt a little bit. And I'm like, well, if he said that was not going to hurt, and I thought it hurt. So, and then he said that's going to, I don't know how. So they take the bone marrow out of my hip, and then they remove the stem cells out of there, and they inject the stem cells into the spine, and then go back for another treatment on something. I'm just curious.
I tried to talk my mom into doing stem cell before she had her knee replacement.
I always thought that stem cells came from aborted babies. I didn't know they could get them from ourselves.
Right, they can get your own stem cells. Apparently, dead babies are better, but
placentas as well.
But
you got to get the real shit. You got to go down to Panama.
Yeah, so I'm curious, and I was talking to AC about it, see if he knew anything about it. He's like, oh yeah, man. He's like all over Europe. He's, I guess, Kobe Bryant back in the day
thing with his neck
when he had something with his ankle or whatever, and it got him back like 3 months earlier than he would have got back.
Yeah, wasn't it Peyton went to Germany for all his neck surgeries and work, and part of that was because of that.
The stem cells. Yeah, it's weird that our country does not want to.
Because you sell those drugs.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Did I say that out loud?
That's exactly it.
I mean, we've teased that we need to do it. We need to do it so bad. We need to set aside like a whole day and do like a 12-hour epic and go on our whole fucking bullshitty rants about the healthcare system. We've talked about it forever, but we can never quite get to making a show on it. Because I mean, again, like I think there's 1,000 problems with it, and I mean the easy lazy one is corruption, but that's not all. I mean, there's more to it than that.
There's aspects to it, yeah.
Yes, it's complicated.
It is.
So I'm excited to see if this works. I mean, just had the first treatment. No, I was pretty impressed. I was like, all right, maybe this might be viable.
I mean, I only know about Rogan talks about it a lot. He had a tear in his shoulder muscle or something like that, and did he went down to Panama. I know some guy in Dallas has an office in Dallas, but he flies you down to Panama because of what he's allowed to do in Panama and he's not allowed to do in the States. But he do all the consult work and all the checkups and everything in Texas somewhere.
It might be that in that case, like they're using other people's stems or other stem cells, and
right.
Here in the United States, you can only do your own. So we'll see.
It's so cool as shit that you can do it. You can be like, oh, we're going to pick these things out, and we're going to put them together, a little jelly paste, and
yeah.
I'm wondering how they take bone marrow out and then filter out just the stem cells that are in your bone marrow.
Well, your bone marrow.
That's where I was like, how does that work?
I don't know.
Like a crazy centrifuge.
Yeah. That's a good question, but we'll see.
I mean, bone marrow's got all the goodies. So.
Do they give you the leftover bone marrow back? I mean, I think it's only in your spine.
Yeah,
sorry, it's in all your bones. What the hell am I thinking? Sorry, I'm thinking of spinal fluid.
Yeah, that's a little different. Yeah, who knows? It's expensive though. It's not cheap, but it's worth every penny if it works.
Hell yeah.
So we'll have to have an update.
We'll have an update, right?
A couple months.
I think
See this here? I'm doing jumping jacks, and I feel great.
right, but I mean, again, it's
AC
still,
doesn't have to haul my deer out of the woods.
Yeah. Whatever. You got your 4x4, your little 4-wheeler. You're fine.
Is your winch working?
It works. It's got me out of the mud a bunch of times.
The winch on the side-by-side couldn't pull a tree out of the ground for me. Well, it could, but it didn't do it. Like, it was actually, the tree was too heavy, and so it was actually dragging it. Like, the winch was pulling the side-by-side.
Oh, it was pulling it towards it?
Right,
Yeah.
instead of pulling the tree. So,
Well, I mean, that's usually what it's for, though, right?
Right.
You hook up to the tree. You don't want the tree coming to you when you're stuck in the mud. You want you
right,
to come to the
this
tree.
tree was on the ground, and not, like, it was detached. It was this,
Oh, it was a
over here.
detached tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
The taproot was still in. I think it's alive.
It
I
was
think it
still
survived.
pretty rooted.
Yeah, I think it's still alive too.
Well, that's not the winch wasn't working right. That's just a
No, I
weight
didn't say
issue.
it wasn't right.
Okay.
I didn't say it wasn't working right. I was just saying it was like, this was not the intention here, because I actually got the remote out, like plugged it into the front bumper or whatever, and I was standing over to the side, make sure, like, if it did snap, I wasn't in the range or whatever, but like I was, the side-by-side was here, and the tree was there, and I was kind of halfway between the two, but off to the side, so I had the remote, and I was like, and then the side-by-side remote, and I was like, damn it.
Should put your fat ass in the.
What was I say? You should have got your whole family into it.
That's what I did too. And stood on the brake, and really it was more the brake than it was my weight. Because the parking brake's just not that great on that thing. But I don't know where to go from here. We wandered through a lot of stuff.
Yes, I heard they have good stem cell treatment in Ukraine,
I'm
but
sure.
only if it's by a Finland doctor.
Apparently, Louis C.K. was en route to Ukraine for like a 5-city tour. And when all the shit went down, he's like, well, I guess I'm going home. There's a funny little story about that. But I don't know. Like, I mean, in local stuff, since we're technically a local show, it's kind of been a slow week. Holidays do that.
I sent you the state announce. We have. I was looking, they had a couple different numbers. It was like a $3 billion in budget surplus.
I know the
Then they
budget's
said
way up.
when you filter in something else, it was really only like $1.5 billion.
Yeah. I mean, that's a concern. Like, that's the concern with the budgets. Like, the county budget specifically ballooned a significant percentage this year, as well as school board, because school board was like 550 last year, and it's right at 600 this year. So it's like a 9-10% jump, which is, good, and it's still not enough, air quotes, for certain people, whatever, but it was a big jump because of surplus, because of how well sales tax did through the pandemic, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's great.
I think they said they hadn't seen this kind of surplus since when they raised the sales tax,
Right.
however many
And
years
so the
ago.
concern, to me at least, is next year after next. Because I like that Tennessee is a sales tax state. I actually like that part of it. If we're going to do it, this is the right way to do it. I don't like property tax, because property tax is just renting your own shit from the state. But it also, sales tax only can get dicey. I mean, if we have a real recession, a real downturn in the economy, it really affects, we could have all the budgets we want to have. If we're not bringing the money in, because we're not selling shit in the state, because nobody's working, jobs are down, all that kind of shit. If we have a real recession in Tennessee, our budgets can get real fucked real fast. And so it's like, yeah, we promised all these teachers we're going to pay them this much. We promised all this, that, and the other. Not happening. We're going to have to start cutting and cutting and cutting. Because at least with property tax, until people can't afford it, you start taking their houses from them. At least with property tax, you're going to get the money. It's a fixed number year in and year out, and only adjusts up periodically. So that's a concern I have moving forward with especially the new school budget. But again, I mean, it's the same thing with the federal budget that we were talking about earlier. I don't know what the fuck we spend all our money on. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. I still don't know what it is. And again, how does it positively affect me? Because I'm the most important person in Tennessee. At least I sound that way. And again, I don't know. I have to say it just to be clear.
You can pull it up. They post the budget. I mean, there's
right, because
there's black parts of the budget that you can't see.
Right, and well, the federal budget at least, yeah. But
the
state budget shouldn't have any redactions. But I am not.
There's probably a tiny bit of like the TBI they don't talk about.
It's probably just their subset of the budget. I mean, I'd say the TBI gets X, and maybe some of the line items inside TBI's subset are redacted. But I don't know what I mean, but like there's two parts to it. One, I'm not a genius accountant, and it's hard to follow. And two, it's the numbers are just incomprehensible.
Well, it's like we talk about with the sales tax, where it's a lot of like back and forth, to where
it's not even there's a lot of back and forth.
Farmers get there's a certain chunk of money set aside to subsidize farming, but then those farmers are still paying taxes back and federal incentives and things like that.
But again, but realistically, it's not even that it's a lot of the back and forth. It's I don't know what the state production per year is as far as like how much sales tax is generated. Obviously, it's a big fucking number, or how much sales are generated, and then how much sales tax is generated off of that. But even if it was, I don't know, it's because then we have federal money coming in for Project A, B, and C, and where that enters the budget and comes out of the budget, it's like they're just hard to understand. And
just stop making churches tax exempt.
I don't think that's.
I think that'd be a good chunk of money.
Right, but my attempt to understand the budget is not it's first and foremost not we don't have enough money, because I don't know if we have enough money. Like, we may have plenty of money. That's the thing. I don't know if we don't have enough money. I know people talk about not having enough money, but those are also politicians that have bases to please and whatever. I mean, when Speaker Sexton says we want to do this project but we don't have the money for it, I don't know what that actually means. Or we don't have the money to do that project, that's why I'm voting no. I don't know what that actually means against the actual budget.
It's not available in the current budget because that budget does get down to.
But even if it is theoretically available in the current budget, and they're having a conversation about expenditure, I don't know what it's not in terms that make sense to normal people. Because again, like $100 million. What is $100 million? What does $100 million look like to you? I don't know what that means. I don't know where that sits in the percentage of the total budget.
I mean, I think 500 something million or 600 million for our county's school budget seems astronomical to me. I'm like,
right? It seems
how does the county spend $600 million,
and it's not enough
every year,
and it's not enough, right? But again, it's the same thing. It's the same base argument that I've made a number of times. Is it's backwards. It doesn't make sense to me. If we're just going to talk about sales tax, why does the state take 7% and the local only gets 2 and whatever? The majority of local budgets is funded from property tax, not the sales tax. What is the state of Tennessee doing on the specific major issues that we care about as citizens of the state, not even Knox County, but for the sake of conversation, Knox County schools is fucking important. It's a big deal. Like 60% of this $600 million budget is Knox County out of pocket from their 2 and some percentage of sales tax plus property tax. But 7% is going to the state for what? Like, again, I don't know what the breakdown is, but let's say the total county budget's like right at $1 billion, not quite $1 billion this year, right? I want to say that if I remember correctly, generally speaking, like 70% of that total budget is property tax, with even 30% as the sales tax, and then grants and other shit, whatever. But just for the conversation's sake, let's say 30%.
State budget, you said?
County budget.
County budget, okay.
30% of the $1 billion county budget, right, is from sales tax. How much sales needs to be produced to make $300 million?
That feels funny that you were counting out on your fingers like it's $1 billion, 30%.
Right. Yes, I was counting on my fingers to count down percentages.
300 billion?
Million.
300 million. How much sales would you have to do to make 300 million in, well, no, not even that, in 2.25% or 2.75% sales tax, not the 7, or not the 9.25%, 2.25%. I'm sorry. Let me back that up. How much would you have to sell to make $300 million?
So you're saying $300 million is 2.5% of what?
2.25% of what? Right.
So $300 million. I've lost my math.
I mean,
Common Core is not working.
Do it times 0.0275.
I don't know. This is we need a calculator and we need a mathematician in the room.
No, that's going to make it go lower. Not add the tax.
Divide by 1.0.
It's divide.
Oh, divide by. Yeah, sorry, divide by.
But it is divide by 1.0225. I think.
No, I think we were right the first time. 0.025.
No, that's not right either.
Divided by 1.0125. 0.0. Yeah, anyway, it's a lot. But the other way to look at it, so forget that. Do what is it? Whatever. If we could figure that number out, then what is 3 times that number? Because essentially 3 times that number is the state's 7% portion. Right?
Let's see. Hold on, I'll figure this out here a second. So 2 times by 4 equals...
Math with geniuses.
So 300 million times 0.4 is... by 4 is 1.2 trillion.
No, billion. Not trillion.
No, trillion. 1.2... billion, yeah, you're right, bro. Yeah. 1.2 billion, and then you add, that's 10%, so add another 0, so 12 billion. We have to bring in 12 billion to get...
I'd say Knox County probably does that. Anyway, but then what's the inverse of that being times that by 3, and that's going to get the 7%.
Yeah, so 12 billion, so 36 billion. 36
billion, so presumably, and this is, rough math if you haven't noticed, everybody, $36 billion produced gets us
300 million.
300 million locally. Well, where does the inverse of that, which is probably, about $1 billion,
9 billion,
800 million or something like that.
900,000.
900 million.
900 million.
Where does that other 900 million goes to the state? Where does it go? What does it do?
Titan Stadium.
I mean, and a little bit of our stadium too, for that, to be fair. But I mean, really, like, what does the state provide? What is this, like? Okay, so like, it's really easy local. On the super local version of it is we have City of Knoxville, Knox County. The really easy, lazy way to say the difference in what services you get for the extra taxes you pay for city are trash, fire, bus. Like, those are the major ones. There's other stuff. Different cops, yeah. So those are the major handful of things that the city provides that you pay extra taxes for.
Schools.
City doesn't pay for schools.
Oh, you're just saying city.
Right.
Oh, I got
Well, city and county pay for schools equally. It's a whole separate big argument thing. But, so, like, the difference in county and city, well, the city provides these, and this is what you pay extra for it. Well, what's the difference in county and state? What is the county providing to me that the state is not? And why is the state taking more money?
What does the state provide? Yeah,
for what the state provides. TWRA, big fans. We like that they exist. They're certainly not taking much of that budget, but we like that they exist. But like, what is the state providing? How much of it is this weird little like
highway patrolman?
The idea that I don't like about it, I guess to point to kind of finalize my point. The idea that I don't like about it is that all the money goes to Nashville, and then Nashville gets to pick and choose where it goes back out.
So does like our state representatives, that's paid through the state?
Yeah, but they don't get paid shit, so it doesn't matter. I mean, we've got like a dozen between Senate and House, but they only make like $1,700 a month. So
yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, but it's like services, like, so state roads, state agencies. What's state agencies? I mean, obviously a lot of it's the bureaucratic mess. You got state the Secretary of State and all that kind of stuff that we have here in the state of Tennessee. You got the business departments and all that kind of stuff that we have to file our taxes through and all that kind of shit. But like, again, that's the question to me that nobody really seems to talk about. It just goes. Like, this money just goes, and we don't really talk about where it goes and what it does and where it comes back to. It just goes, and it's gone. And we assume because they've been there, then they're professionals.
And we're just talking about Knox County. We're not talking about all the other
right
places in the state. Like, what is the state's budget? Well, how much does the state bring in?
Lots. State of TN 2022 overview budget. 41.8 billion with the dollars. Income is 50% of the income is from the state, 35 is from the federal government, 20 is from the federal government and TennCare. Expenditures. 27% of the total state expenditure is $5.6 billion, and it's a K through 12 education. So look, so you TennCare in for 20, TennCare out for 20. We spent $2.3 billion on higher education, $1.2 billion on transportation, $1.2 billion on corrections. That's one that we mixed. $6.7 billion on other. Key highlights: BEP funding, fully fund state share of BEP for K-12 education. Anybody I talk to says bullshit to that. I don't understand it well enough to call it out. Broadband expansion, state funding of teacher salaries, which again, it's a weird ass complicated thing. Rainy day fund deposit, so they put $50 million more in the rainy day fund. $150 million in COVID relief and support, providing testing, vaccine support, hospital and school assistance for PPE and more. Was 2022 or 21? That's 21-22. So this is last year's budget. I apologize. $8 million in tourism incentives. All right. So the biggest ticket item is capital maintenance and improvements at $931 million. So capital products being roads, bridges,
infrastructure. I think
buildings.
We started looking at that before because we were like, "What the hell's capital investments?"
I mean, capital investments is spending money on things that you own. So we own the State House as the state of Tennessee. We own the bridges. We own the roads. We own the Nissan Stadium. We own the arena in, I don't know if the state owns it or city of Nashville owns it now that I say it out loud, but
state parks.
What is the tourism incentives?
I mean, that's just like, on license plates, it's visit Tennessee.org and...
Well, in the commercials we put out, tell people, visit Tennessee, visit the Smokies, visit Nashville. Or so part of their budget is advertising.
I mean, they do a statewide version of it, right? And then all the sub localities do their own. I mean, this is one of those shows I'd like to have somebody who knows what the fuck they're talking about to really sit down and break it down. And I would just go to mush, and it would be a terrible show because I can't. My brain doesn't work that way. Like, I just can't. Like, I'm a money guy. I run numbers. I get it. Like, it makes sense to me for the most part. But when you get into this shit, it just goes. Pfft. Like, I've had Ron McPherson on 4 times. And I would argue that I'm probably one of the most educated people in Knox County about how Knox County school budget works. And I don't know shit. And I like Ron a lot. I think he's a good dude, and I don't mean this as an insult, but the reality is I think he just cashes the check when it comes from the state. He doesn't know how the number on the check gets there. He just cashes it. It's like, the state sent us $100 million. Boop, 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 and the $100 million is gone. I don't think he understands. Like, I don't think he understands the formula. I don't think anybody understands the formula.
No.
I think there's some, like, fucking squirrels and raccoons in the basement somewhere that...
Oh, that's why you find, like,
that dance around. And
city planner stole, $100 million from the thing. Or
I just think
they run into, like, this guy's got a $300,000 salary. He's the janitor of, like, the convention center. Like, you hear about that shit all the time. It's like, how did this stuff get overlooked for so long?
Right. But I think the reality of it to me, and I think to bring the whole point home of what we're just rambling on about weird, bad math for the last little bit, the reality to me is that our taxation and interaction is backwards across the board. We spend more. We get more money gets spent on the federal level. More attention gets spent on the federal level. The middle ground is the state, and the bottom is local, and that's backwards to me. We, as the people, should have more interest, more understanding of what's going on right here, right now, and more of our money that gets taken out of our pockets against our will should be spent on things right here, right now, and it should go to our local government first to do so. It doesn't make a bit of sense to me that we're spending the most of our money out of our pockets on a federal government that's miles away and too big and too complicated to really get anything specifically done for us and our neighborhoods.
And those people, and so the people that spend that money or decide where that money gets spent, that's in Nashville. Those
State.
people live in Nashville, the state?
No, I mean, that's like Massey and Manus and Zachary and all them, that they have residences here. Most of them probably have apartments or something in Nashville when they're working, but they live here. I mean, you have to live in the district to run for the office.
Yeah.
So like, I don't even know who yours is. Yours is Farmer, maybe? State
No
House.
idea.
Briggs, I think Briggs is your senator. Anyway, they have to live in the district to run for that office. So like Becky Massey lives in Senate Seat 6, which is the south half of Knox County. Like it goes up on this side of Knox County, so it like cuts down west to east through downtown and then down into the southeast portion of Knox County. And then Briggs is the northwest.
Is it Hurt, maybe?
Yeah. And I think I think yours in northeast Knox County goes into the neighboring counties as well. But they have to live here for it, and then when they're in session, they go to Nashville Monday through Thursday for 6-8 weeks, whatever the total session is. But again, point being, like as you know, like or don't like Mayor Jacobs, his office should have more to do with more of my money that gets taxed for me than, you know, Bradshaw or Blackburn and Haggerty and Biden.
I'm assuming part of that is, you know, our local government submitting the budgets to the state.
The state doesn't give a shit. The county budget has nothing, like there's no, as I understand it, there's no state influence on the county budget when they make it. The county makes it off of projections. Maybe the state, the Treasury Department or whatever, the state treasury or whatever, gives projections for income and stuff like that, and what this county's cut's going to be off of the current tax situation.
I would think we would submit some kind of budget that would then
I'm sure we have to file it, but
that would depend on how much money we get back.
I don't know.
Say this is our budget. This is how much we need back from the state.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, because it makes sense, because the Knox County schools could very well submit a budget over what their guaranteed amount is, and then Knox County could approve or refuse that budget.
Generally, budgets are, you know, our expected expenditures for the next fiscal year.
Well, but they're both in this case. They're what we want to spend and what we need to spend. And that's the game that they play, because like Knox County Schools, for example, they can submit a budget for a 10% teacher raise across the board. They could submit that budget to Mayor Jacobs' office. Then Mayor Jacobs can refuse it, because Mayor Jacobs' office gets the same data that says, well, this is what we expect to bring in that we normally set aside for schools, and the budget you're asking for is here, and the income's down here. The budget is a request, not a...
Right, I'm trying to figure out how the state, on their end, decides how much to then distribute out to individual counties, cities, or whatever.
That's a very good question.
I'm assuming they're going off of what numbers we give them.
But I think it's the other way, too. Right, but I think it's the other way, too. It's that the county budget is being written based on what they expect to receive with the current percentage of property tax and how much we should get in property tax, and then what the state is expecting to bring.
So is that surplus we have a projected surplus?
I think it's a current surplus. I think it was what they just
released. No, the current one we have, because like one of the big things that happened is early pandemic, all departments were told to see what you can cut, and so they all started cutting and trimming, because the assumption was that we would have some sort of recession with the pandemic.
So we have a surplus now, and they're like, hey, let's raise property tax.
Right. Well, and then the other part, too, in the surplus is that we expected to do this much because, again, we're a sales tax state. We expected this much sales to happen in the state that would produce this much sales tax. Well, it turns out that this much, this higher number of sales happened, which means we have a higher number of sales tax.
Because people couldn't go out to eat enough, and then they end up buying four-wheelers and new TVs and stuff because they were spending their $600 checks and doing all that kind of shit.
I'm still confused on that whole thing. Like, I'm still very confused on how this whole thing shook out. Like, I don't understand the math.
I think they said part of it was also, and I guess it was in the past like 2 or 3 years, where we added for online sales.
Right.
Well,
and
we
you
start
also
receiving sales tax for online sales.
right, and you also figure that
which more and more people are doing.
right, but then under Trump we had near 0% interest rates from the Fed, which is essentially saving money is stupid. So if you had cash, you were buying shit, like, because holding on to cash is dumb when interest rates are nothing. And so that's another big factor that goes into it. People that have large sums of cash, they want interest on their cash, and when they get no interest on their cash, they go buy shit with it. And that's intentional. That's to boost economy. That's why the Fed does that. Yes.
I guess depending on what you're buying, yeah.
No. Period. Anything. Buy whatever. Buy houses. Buy land. Buy cars. Buy anything. Like the idea that you own. If you have $100,000 in cash,
I mean, land most likely is going to appreciate, but cars are going to depreciate.
So is your cash.
You have no.
Your cash depreciates too.
Depending on the market.
No.
Yeah.
Inflation is a fact, period. Inflation always happens. There's no question that inflation is happening. Whether it's big inflation or little inflation, inflation is a constant.
So
if you have 100,000,
so the value of the dollar is just constantly just going down. The value is never going to go up.
Can you think of a time when it went up?
Yeah.
So there's
compared to other markets, yes.
Compared to other markets, tell me about that time.
It goes up and down. I mean, there were years ago where the dollar was worth more than the euro. I think right now the euro is like a little bit over more than $1, like €1 to $1.
I agree with you, but I think he's saying that what you can
buy with the dollar, I don't care what the euro's worth,
versus what you could buy with the dollar last month or last year or 10 years ago.
Right. What's a gallon of milk cost? Has a gallon of milk ever gone down in cost?
$3.50, $4. Recently, no. In the past year or two, no.
Right. And so if you have $100,000 in the bank, you're losing money. That's a standard fact of life. That's not even me conjecturing bullshittery right now. That is a fact. Any financial person you ever talk to
in an inflationary market, yes.
It's not in any market ever. At least, especially in the U.S., because we just print more money tomorrow anyway. But that's a whole separate subset. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. My point is, inflation is constant. How much inflation is variable. But inflation always happens.
So gas never comes down?
Gas, a particular commodity does not negate the fact that inflation exists.
Well, I mean, gas goes up and down, yes, but if you look at what gas was 10 years ago and what it is now, obviously it's a lot higher.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the gallon of milk's the lazy one, a loaf of bread. Maybe the loaf of bread didn't change price, but the loaf of bread got shorter.
I mean, I remember mid to late 2000s paying $3-4 a gallon. It was only for a short little while.
Right.
It was almost
post
pretty much
post 9/11, halfway through the invasion of Iraq.
I've been meaning to go back and look and see why exactly it went up at that time. I don't think it had anything to do with Iraq. It
never really has anything to do with anything other than people trying to make money. But inflation is a consistent. It always happens. If you were getting zero return on saving money, then you need to spend your money. That's why the Fed does what it does. When there's an economic lull and a president wants something to happen and wants people to be happy, they drop inflation rates to zero. People with a bunch of money go out and spend it because it's no good sitting in the bank. And maybe you spend it on an asset that appreciates or an asset that's about equal. But at the end of the day, you buy that $50,000 car, it's going to be $65,000 in a couple of years. Not that you can sell it used for $65,000, but a new car in a couple of years is going to be plus X.
I sell my Bronco.
I know, we've talked about it. I saw a black one, 2-door convertible. It was nice. It was very nice.
I saw my exact model.
I'm kind of mad. I'm kind of mad for you. Like, I'm pissed that you don't have a Bronco in my driveway right now.
Me too.
I'm actually because when I saw the 4-door at school and I sent the picture to the group, I was like, what the fuck, bro? I thought you were going to have the first. Like, I thought it was going to be, I'm going to jump in the Bronco with my boy and we're going to be the only fucking new kick-ass Bronco rolling around town. It's going to be like badass bitches. And then it's like, well, there's one, and there's one, there's one, there's one.
And I thought
then now I start seeing the 2-doors.
And I thought that because I didn't switch my order over from a 2-door to a 4-door, I would have one of the first now, and I see them all over the place now. It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I'm mad about it. I'm mad about it for you.
They just straight up cancel your order?
No, I'm still waiting on it.
Yeah.
But I was told
If
at
he
the
gets
dealership,
it right.
I was told the dealership, he said the day you sign your papers, which is $64,000, they'll offer me $75,000 for it. And I was like, what? Because they're selling used ones on the lot for $85,000
Right. So
Doesn't
you
make
get
any
it for
sense.
$65,000 and you sell it.
for $75,000.
You sell it individual for $80,000.
I want to list it for $100,000.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I get it. I'm put it on.
Well, if these gas prices keep going up, then you know not make it. I'm just saying. Like I've got the Tahoe for sale right now at $0. Like I know I'm over asking. Like I know I'm over asking for what it is. But I had one guy wanted to trade him like a 96 BMW sedan. That's the only thing I've had so far. So I'm like, hey, you want to trade? And I was like, no, I'm trying to get rid of a car.
I don't need another car.
But that's it. And it's like $5,400. That thing's a tank. Because I own a tank. Because I have the right to own a tank.
I think it needs some work.
No, it needs the washer fluid reservoir needs replaced or fixed, and it needs a new battery. Other than that, the thing's a fucking tank.
Okay.
The Tahoe,
Yeah,
not the Frontier. The Frontier's a piece of shit. I know that.
I know.
I am mad I put like $300 in it today.
That Frontier
What,
rides
tires?
better.
Yeah.
That Frontier rides better than your Tahoe.
Oh, that's the fun part about the Tahoe, though. Is you got that, like you're sitting there and it's got that wiggle.
Oh, so it doesn't. It needs more than just a battery. And,
No, my Tahoe is. It's a 2002. It's got 250,000 miles on it. What do you want from it? It'll start and it'll get you somewhere. That's worth $5,000 to me.
I looked up by Sequoia on Kelley Blue Book,
Yeah.
and it is the same price I paid for it 6 years ago when it had like 140,000 miles, and it has 328,000 miles right now. I'm like, how can I get the same?
Because used market's a shit show right now.
It is. It's nuts.
Everything's a shit show right now. I want to figure out how to blame everything on supply chain. I just want to put a sign out that says,
Unbited.
I don't suck at my job. Supply chain.
No, you just blame everything on the current president, no matter what.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's just generally true. I agree. I mean, even
It doesn't matter that there's all these other politicians that are also in office. You just
Right.
blame whoever the president is.
Well, it's because somehow we've gotten to this place where that one person is the only person that matters.
But you're the one in charge.
It's the czar. It's the czar of the United States. Everything goes across his desk. And really, I mean, for Biden's sake, he's going through shit he's still looking at like stuff from '96. He's a slow reader.
They're like, here, old man, sign this real quick.
Hey, Grandpa, can you sign this for me? It's a permission slip. I want to go on the field trip. I just don't. Oh, all right. All right, that's a Tuesday show. Hey, last call. Anybody? Anything fun? Anything interesting? Something light and breezy?
That was something funny. Chair Pelosi's husband got busted for a DUI.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
funny.
Well, so let's take bets on how much he gets. How if he gets.
That's already been the talking point.
Hey, if I was married to her, it would take a lot for me to go home to her every night too.
I would be a walking DUI. Yeah,
I think
agree.
there was a crash involved in it. I hadn't read like the full story or anything, but yeah, that's already been the talking point of like we'll see if he actually gets in trouble for
it.
it.
Really
If he
doesn't
gets
fucking
in
matter.
trouble.
He'll get I don't know if it politically speaking, if they're smart, he'll go in there and he's not going to get jail time. Period.
No.
There's no fucking way.
Well, no.
If
Really gets-
it's first offense, you get.
But-
Well, if there was an
1 year
accident,
suspended
maybe
license.
He'll get a big fat fine and a suspended license. I'm surprised he drives anyway. Why
That's
would
what I
you
was about
drive?
to say. I'm like, fuck, man. Like,
And your
yeah, if I
fucking
had
stockbroker
money, like-
should be driving you everywhere with how much money you're making for him.
on a good note, you know who's playing tonight at Thompson Bowling Arena?
A Beatle. There's a Beatle in town.
Oh, is that-
80 years old, like rocking the stage. That's pretty cool.
I think WBR had a story. It was, I guess it was somewhere outside of Nashville. The guy had a picture from like 74 or 75 But I guess I had a picture with McCartney, but he said he was going to be at the concert tonight. And he was saying how it was really cool that he got to meet McCartney,
50 years ago.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I almost was not going to be here.
You got some tickets? Or you had an option of tickets?
I was driving around, and it was like one of the radio stations was like, text in Paul to this number. We're giving away tickets tonight. And I was like,
they did like a last minute release. I don't know where they found these tickets, or if they just.
No, I think that's a normal thing that like with a show like this, that's a normal thing that promoters do. They'll sell like 90%, and then like 3 weeks out, they'll sell 8%. And they'll hold 2% right there for the end.
But I texted the thing. They're like, "Thanks for entering the contest." And they're like, I don't know. A minute later, it was like, "Sorry." I was like,
"Loser."
Damn it, that was quick.
All right, so we are trying to buy a house for my in-laws right now. So I get to go to the AC pool of the shit show that is the housing market going on. Speaking of which, I have Henson sale tomorrow. I'm excited about that. But so a friend of mine that does mortgages. Call her up, talk to her for a little bit, go through some ideas and plans. She's like, she's going to go fill out the thing. I got no less than 20 phone calls today.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, who the fuck are you? Well, we saw you had a mortgage application. Who the fuck are you? Why are you calling me? Well, we saw you had a mortgage application. Like, that pisses me off. Like, I'm going to yell at my friend here tomorrow. I'm going to call her up and be like, hey, why did I get 20 phone calls yesterday? About people trying to sell me a mortgage?
Put it on the market.
But I didn't put it on the market. I just went directly to her and her company and put in an application.
And then her company sold your information.
Yeah. I'm like, tell you what. Knock a point.
She's an idiot, too, because then, like...
Right. Knock a point off my mortgage because I've got options now. You got people calling me that are promising me 3% and you're telling me 4%.
But, like, why would she do that? Or maybe there's just a general, like...
It's probably so... realistically, there's a third-party company that does the onboarding.
Well, there's only like 3 or 4 like major credit companies.
Well, at least what she told me is they didn't run my credit yet. So they haven't pulled my credit score. So I can't wait for the phone calls when they actually pull the credit. But
did she give you a rate yet? I don't know how she gives you a rate without... I mean,
she's just doing it off of what she's seen and all that kind of shit. Huh. I mean, they're rising fast. I think she said we're looking at 5% for Lucky.
Really?
Yeah.
That's rising. That's really... Wow.
Yeah. But it's also an investment, like on paper.
Oh, yeah. Investment is because, those are more... You don't get as good a rate as primary residency.
Yeah. And so... But it's a mess. It's going to be a mess. I'm not looking forward to it, but we're going to do it because, it's family shit.
Take care of family, even though how messed up they are.
Just not like moms and dads, not in-laws, brothers and sisters-in-laws. Fuck those people. All right. So on that happy note, DUI from Pelosi's husband. I wonder if is she on the ballot this year? Is she running? Keep her seat?
I'm assuming.
Anyway. All right. That's the show, everybody. Anybody? Outro? Almost Agreement, everybody. We did a show. It's a Tuesday show. It's now Wednesday if you're hearing this on release date. We're going to keep doing these Tuesday shows at least throughout the summer. We'll see when school gets back in whether that's still an option or not. We're Almost in Agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com. Check out my voter guide 22. It's got KGAS. It's got Knox County Election Commission. You can check your registration status as well as what districts you're in, that kind of thing. And then as you scroll down, you're going to see all the different candidates for all the different races that are going on. County general, state primary in August, and then state general as well as some federal stuff going on in the November race. So check all that out. Check out my other project, Compass Points podcast. It's a fun one to get all on the same place you can get our show. That's it for me. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you soon.